Okay, I've been doing top 20 since the beginning of the year. You've probably seen this problem before. This is the type of question that we have today with one added thing. We're going to talk about negative exponents. But first, we got to get them down when the exponents are positive. This 3 has to get squared 9. This a squared has to get squared a to the 4th, but that's not a great example because you can't tell if I added the 2's or multiplied the 2's. You get what I mean? Because either way, it's 4. So that's why I threw in this b to the 3rd, so that I could tell, did you really do it right? Because is it supposed to be add or is it supposed to be multiply? Multiply. B to the 3rd squared is b to the 6th. And then I have this times, oh, well, at least there was a dot there, times 7, and then there's parentheses. You got to know when parentheses don't matter. This is one of those times where those parentheses don't matter. They can be dropped. Some people think you distribute the 7 to both parts. No. Why not? What would it need in there for you to be distributing? It would need a little plus or a little minus. There's no plus or minus. That 7 does not distribute. One of the biggest things people do wrong in this type of question. That 7 just is out in front. It's 7 times a times b to the 4th. It's kind of like 7 times 6 times 5. Do you distribute the 7 to the 6 and to the 5? No, you don't. See what I mean? So there's no distributing in this, so there's no distributing on this. You don't do that, only if there's a plus in between them or a minus. All right, now how do I actually put them all together? Like kinds go together. If I was asking you to count up the animals in the farmyard, if there was like sheep, you'd count up all the sheep separately from the cows, right? You wouldn't be like, we got 46 sheep cows. No, that would make no sense. You'd say like, I got 26 sheep and 20 cows. You'd separate them, right? So the numbers go with the numbers, 9 times 7, 63. The letters go with the letters, a to the, what, 5th, and b to the 10th. Awesome. That's your final answer. How many of you had it right from the beginning? Awesome. Now, some of you guys have been rocking this thing from the top since we did the top 20. But a lot of people got it wrong the first time on their top 20 and have learned it since. So I get there might be a few of you that are still not totally getting this. All right, so let's do another just basics. A to the 3rd to the 3rd. Oh, wait, that's going to be bad because they're both 3's. How about to the 2nd? I know, the answer is a to the 9th. Right? No, it's not. Is it a to the 5th? No, it's not. You get how if you just base yourself on like memorizing, like, oh, on this kind you have to times, you could easily forget on a test. So let's say you're in the middle of the test and you're going, dang it, I can't remember. Is this the kind you add? Or is this, here's what you do. You write out what it really means. What does a to the 3rd really mean? A times A times A, yes. And that is getting squared. Now, you might not feel like you've got it quite yet, but let's write down what squared really means. What does squared really mean? Times by itself, which means A times A. And those are all timeses, right? If you break it down to what it really means, it'll become obvious whether you should add them, multiply them, subtract them, divide them. Final answer in this case, a to the what? 6th. And I'd rather have you do that than just guess if you're like, oh, I don't know, is it 6 or is it 5? I don't know. Write it out so you can have an example for yourself. All right. This one gets weird. A lot of you know it's a to the 3rd, kinda. But you're like, not sure exactly what to do with that because sort of like, seems like it's a to the 3rd, but it's kind of not exactly a to the 3rd. The answer is it's not a to the 3rd. But there's an a to the 3rd in it. What do you think the answer is? 1 over a to the 3rd. Awesome. What about the kid who says, but Mr. Server, I was taught that you subtract these two things, and therefore I say it's a to the negative 3rd. They're right. A to the negative 3rd is the same thing. A to the negative 3rd is this. Now here's the way I like to teach this part. If I put this over 1, you can put anything over 1 if you want to, because dividing by 1 doesn't change it, right? Okay, so then it shows you that the a to the third is on the top, like this. And do you get that if you're negative, you're not happy where you are? If you're a negative person, you're probably not very happy. Well, these exponents that are negative are not very happy. Maybe if they were in the other side, they'd be happy. So you can move this down here and make it a to the positive third. See? Now it's happy. I'll give you this example. My dad lived in a condo in Florida, and there were units on the top floor, and there were units, those are doors by the way, and on the lower floor, there were units down here too. They all had nice views of, like, you know, pretty jungly ponds and trees and that kind of stuff. But do you get that some people that lived on the bottom floor wished that they were on the top floor? I don't know if you know this, but it's actually verifiable by math that the floors that are higher are more valuable. I don't know if you would, you see, in Minnesota, we don't think that way. We think like, oh, the bottom floor, you don't have to climb the stairs to get there and stuff. But imagine you're in Miami and you go up to the 84th floor. What do you get that you didn't have on the first floor? I guess you had an elevator ride. Very good. Okay. But you also have an amazing view. And you also get more sun, more breeze, also more safety. Do you get, if you're on the first floor, somebody can climb in your window really easy? Do you get if you're on the 84th floor, a little bit more difficult for the bad guy to, like, just jump in your sliding glass door? That's true. There are downsides to living on the top floor. Okay, so if there is a fire, I would rather be on the first floor, no doubt about it. Okay, so there are advantages and disadvantages. Even in this condo community where my dad lived, there were some grouchy old people on the lower floor that were negative about where they lived, and they would have rather lived on the upper floor because the view is so much better, and my friend gets a better, he gets the breeze at night, so he stays cool, doesn't have to run his air conditioning, so I really wish I was up here. So if you put them up here, it's going to be x to the positive third. You'll be happy. Okay? But do you get to just people on the top floor who are also saying to themselves, I wish I was on the bottom floor. This top thing is overrated because my knees, when I have to climb up those stairs with the groceries, got to carry 2 grocery bags and I can barely walk. I don't want to get to the top floor. I wish I had a bottom floor unit. And then they would be happy. That's true. And then there's some people that are just unhappy no matter where they are. If you'd move them to the top floor, they'd be like, I thought I was going to have a good view. It's no better than the bottom floor view. But I got all these stairs now. So anyway, but math-wise, we don't have a thing for that. Things that are always negative, no. But if you see a problem that's got this, -2 and x to the -8, you can just switch them around and make them happy. That's supposed to be a -2, by the way. I'll clean that up. So I can switch them around and make them happy. These guys can go to the top floor. These guys can go to the bottom floor. And now it's going to be x to the +8 over x to the second. Yeah, my dad did drink prune juice. It's true. It's not just a, yeah, I got to stay regular, you know. Anyway, so x to the 8th over x to the second made what? X to the 6th. I'm not going to extend the analogy of like people on the top floor canceling people on the bottom floor. That's a little too violent. So we're just going to say that 8 minus 2 makes 6. Okay. How about this? I am. It's okay. It's recording along. And I don't think anything I've said is that outrageous. So, all right. So this and this. Couldn't I have just done -2 minus -8? You could have. If you'd have done -2 minus -8, it would have actually been +6, and you could have just jumped right to that. It's totally okay to do that. I'm just trying to show you a different way to think of the negatives. You can't leave them in your answer. Here's one that blows people's minds then. 2n to the negative third is really a fraction. That's really a fraction. 2 over n to the third. You got it. You cannot leave an answer like this. If you leave a negative in your exponent, you will get it marked wrong. It's not like negative exponents are illegal, but they're not simplified. Okay, so you can have negative exponents in your problems, but in the answers, you better simplify them by moving them to the right place. These weren't happy up where they were. Let's move them down here. Now, a common mistake, people think that the 2 moves with it. It does not. Just the n. They're attached with a multiply, but you can move just the n downstairs. You don't want to move the 2 down with it, or technically the 2, which was happy, it had a positive exponent of 1. If you move the 2 with it, the 2 is going to end up down here and negative, and that just gets messy. So just leave the 2 where it was. Okay? All right, so here's a typical question that involves what I just said. 2x to the negative third y over 4x y to the negative second. How about that? Move things around so they're happy. Cancel things that can be canceled. Because if you can cancel it, you should. Just like if you can factor it, you should. And once you moved your negatives around, this becomes a problem that's just like one in the top 20. If I just move the negatives around, these go down here, those go up there. Well, these guys join up into one little happy group of x's that are all happy. They're all positive. So there's x to the fourth down there. And these y's join the other y's that on top that were already happy. And so that's going to make the 2 join up with the other 1, and that makes 3. That's the kind of problem that would have been on the top 20. I didn't want to make it so hard on the top 20. I have to admit, I'm wondering whether I should have thrown negatives into it, but then pretty much everybody would have got it wrong. And I think it wouldn't have been fair. Because when I made the top 20, I said, these are things you've already learned. And I don't know if you've really done much with negative exponents until now. So I didn't want to make the top 20 have stuff in it that you'd never seen before. Yes? Are you able to reduce the report? Yeah. We're not done. I'm saying that this would have been the problem. And now we need to simplify it to get the answer. And the answer here, the 2 and the 2 make 4. I'm factoring. Look, when you can factor it, you should. And then this cancels this, and the final answer is y to the third over 2x to the fourth. If that's what you were thinking I should do, you're absolutely right. So the first step is just get rid of the negatives. The second step is to actually solve that top 20 style question. All right, so here's another one that's actually more like respectable, like it's actually kind of difficult. Let's see if you can handle this. Nice little tweak at the end there. Now remember, if you're going to do a problem, you start with what? Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? The parentheses. Do you see parentheses? I do. They're great big parentheses. Once you're inside there, you're supposed to do this first because it's in parentheses, right? But wait, there's more parentheses. Did you know that there's actually assumed parentheses there and there? So then, of those two, it really doesn't matter. It's one of the rare times in math where it doesn't matter. You can either do the top first or the bottom first, but you better do them both first before you actually divide. All right, you might be saying, well, how do you do the top? There's nothing I can do. You're right. So then you start looking at the bottom and seeing, is there anything I can do in there to put things together? Like sometimes we'll throw a y here that can go with the other y over there. You know what I mean? But in this case, there was nothing to do. So then is the moment where you start doing what I was saying about making the negatives happy. Move them around so they're happy. Then it'll turn into a top 20 question. And then you can finish it by factoring and canceling. All right, get this one done. Check with the kid next to you. I'm going to pause the video for a second while you figure this one out. Okay, so we are taking these guys and moving them down, putting these guys back up, and I'm going to just rewrite it with that. 4y, and the x squareds that were on the bottom come up to the top, and then 24, and then the x to the fifths that were on the top go to the bottom, and then these guys just cancel a little bit, and there's y squared left down here. Then all of that is squared. These are intense, I know. All it takes is one little mistake and you're doomed. All right, this y can now, oh, I think I maybe have just made a little mistake. I'm going to double check myself. Yeah, there's no y on the top anymore. Ooh, at least I caught it. That y is gone because he canceled right here with some of those y's. All right, so then this and this can simplify down more. Those x's are going to cancel down. So that'll be only 4 over 24. And the x's, there's only 3 left, and they're on the bottom. And then there's a y squared down there, and then still all squared. And then, if you can factor it, you should. So I like doing this. 4 over 4 times 6, x to the third y squared, all squared. And then, notice me, I'm getting all the stuff in the parentheses done first before I square, because then my numbers will be much nicer. Now there's still a 1 left on top, and I have 1 over 6x to the third y squared, and now I gotta square it. What's 1 squared? It's still 1. Over what's 6 squared? It's 36. What's x to the third squared? X to the 6th, and what's y squared squared? Y to the 4th. That's it. That's a tough question. If you can handle that, you know everything. And if you made one little mistake, you'd be like me. I made a little mistake in there too. All right. So let's look at the worksheet. Everybody find the worksheet for today. It looks like this. You are skipping, when you find this worksheet, Properties of Exponents it's called, you're skipping problems 15, 16, 17, and 18. I think chopping off those 4 questions makes it more reasonable and doable. And I will start the worksheet with you in a minute, but just remember we're skipping 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right. Moving up to the top of the page here, let me help you get started. First, I would do the parenthesis, as in, can you put those guys together? And I can. I know that they are going to add when they're like that. If I had trouble with that, I could write them for what they really are, 1 over x squared times a 1 over x to the third. But I can do this. I know this is x to the negative 5th. But all that has to be to the 4th. Now at this point, I can either make them happy, flip it to the other side, or I can just multiply it the rest of the way and say it's x to the negative 20th. But I'm afraid you'll be tempted to leave it that way. You're not allowed to have negative exponents in your answers. So it'd be fine if you just did it this way and then flipped it at the end and said he's not happy where he is. He was over 1. Now let's put him on the other side of the lily pad. And that would cause the frog. No, it wouldn't drown, actually. Frogs can swim underneath the lily pads, so that'd be fine. All right. Anyway, so there's your final answer, 1 over x to the 20th. And then number 2. X to the, I'm not going to do Dracula the whole hour, x to the negative 12 times x, 2x to the 4th. And then I personally am annoyed with these x to the negative 12, so I'm going to put them down on the lower level and make them happy because I don't like people that are unhappy all the time. And now I can clean it up and cancel some x's off, and I got 2 over the x's, though they'll be left on the bottom, x to the, what do you think? False. 8. It's a subtract thing. All right. Think of it this way. There were 4 x's on top and 12 of them on the bottom. 4 canceled. We got 8 x's left. There's your final answer. 2 over x to the 8th. All right. This one. Remember me saying that that's actually a fraction? It's actually 2 over n because it was over 1. But then those n's that were unhappy can go down to the bottom. That's really the same as 2 over n. And then you can put that together and then put it with this. Some things will cancel. I'm not doing the rest of the problems for you, because obviously, if I do the whole worksheet, it really won't help you that much. You are skipping 15, 16, 17, and 18 on this worksheet. Yes, go ahead. And make sure you leave your answers without having negative exponents. If you're tempted to leave it with a negative exponent, you're really close to the answer. You just got to take that exponent that's negative and move it to the other side of the fraction that's always there. If it doesn't feel like there's a fraction bar there, you can always put over 1, and now you got a fraction bar. All right, and that's all I have for you for today.